Hello everyone, Storm1 here. Today we'll be having an update on a potential tornado outbreak across parts of Texas and Oklahoma later today. That severe weather risk does move farther to the east in the parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, even as far north as parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, western Kentucky, even the parts of southern Ohio as well. And it moves further to the east by Friday, and that severe weather risk pushes into parts of the lower Ohio Valley region, parts of Tennessee Valley, perhaps in the parts of the Deep South and the Carolinas as well. Before we get started in this video, if you guys like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we have more updates on a couple of these severe weather setups over the next couple of days, so definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. We're going to start with the watch warning advisory display. We got a tornado watch that's in effect for parts of Texas, Oklahoma. That's where you see this big yellow box here. We also have a flash flood watch in the parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. And by the way, some of the flash flood watch and the tornado watch kind of overlaps a little bit. So I think it's roughly these areas here for a good chunk of Oklahoma is within that flash flood watch. The reason why that's there is because we could see most rounds of strong severe storms, some of the supercells, training over some of the same areas, and that could lead to a pretty decent flooding event. Which, that Oklahoma does need some rain, but this might be a little bit too much rain in a short period of time, which usually supercells are some big time rain producers. And unfortunately, for some of these storms, it's going to be in high precipitation mode in some situations. Meanwhile, the rest of the country is quiet. And let's talk about the storm reports from yesterday. And yesterday's event, I will say it's overperformed a little bit. I mean, we have 103 wind damage reports and 21 hail reports. Two of those were significant. Were a report of ping pong size hail and half door size hail in southern Ohio, too. We also had a couple of rotating thunderstorms out there, but none of them did produce tornadoes. At least for what I know of. The tornado report number is 0. Well, it's not just the Ohio Valley that had severe weather. You had severe weather for parts of the Mid-Atlantic, across the Carolinas, into parts of the Deep South as well. Also had some severe weather yesterday. So really overall, I would say that yesterday's severe weather event probably overperformed just a little bit. Here's the SPC outlook here. Let's go back to day 1, which is today. Got a moderate risk for severe weather across southern Oklahoma, or most of southern Oklahoma into parts of northern Texas. There is a large 50% hatched area, which indicates for the potential for tornadoes, and some of those can be long track and strong to intense as well. Damage winds will be possible in that hatch area. That's where you can see the potential for damage winds of 75 miles per hour or higher. And I think overall hail is going to be the main player for today. Got a 45% hatched area in the parts of southwestern Oklahoma, in the parts of northern Texas. And yeah, some of the hail could be very large out there as well. There's even a march risk for parts of the Carolinas into parts of Virginia. Day 2, which is tomorrow, we're getting enhanced risk for severe weather for most of Arkansas, northwestern Louisiana into east central Texas, and even far southeastern Oklahoma. That slight risk does extend as far north as southern Missouri, southwestern Kentucky, and parts of western Tennessee. We do need to keep an eye on this area as well. We could see a potential warm front setup up there. There could be a supercell or two up there along that warm front, so that's another area to watch for. Which, you know what, when it comes to tornado probabilities, they actually do have a 5% risk area up there for that potential warm front setup. And there's also another 5% for parts of Arkansas, Texas, and the parts of northwestern Louisiana. Damage winds will be the main player. It's not going to be significant. I think it's just going to be all a couple of big cluster thunderstorms out there. I don't see a whole lot of potential for supercells, but any storm that does form out ahead of the main cluster will have the better opportunity to produce tornadoes. And hail will be possible with some of these storms as well. Then on day 3, which is Friday, got a slight risk for severe weather from southeastern Louisiana to southern Mississippi, for most of Alabama, northern Georgia, into southeastern Tennessee. It would not surprise me if that slight risk does get extended farther to the north. It's definitely looking pretty interesting as you get up into parts of the lower Ohio Valley region where we could see a triple point setup on Friday. Then on day 4, which is Saturday, got a slight risk for severe weather for parts of Nebraska to Kansas. Moves further east on day 5, and that also includes parts of Iowa and Missouri. And then on day 6, which is Monday, that moves further to the north. That includes parts of Nebraska, South Dakota, southern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and most of Iowa. At the same time, though, at around this time, there's going to be a big heat wave or a big summer surge for parts of the eastern U.S. as well. It's going to feel like summer next week for some areas out there as well. So there's going to be a big summer surge out there. That's going to keep a lot of the severe weather more focused in the central U.S. because of that ridge that's going to build in parts of the eastern U.S. as well. We'll talk more about day 4, 5, and 6 probably in the next video. But let's get started with the current environment, which right now, surface-based instability, we got instability values up to 4,000 joules per kilogram in the parts of the northwestern part of Texas out there. You also notice here you got this kind of this stationary front, warm front type of setup here across parts of Oklahoma. This is going to slowly move north as this low. That's going to be somewhere over here. It's going to continue to move off to the east out there. If we do check out Big Sur Cape, instability values are also pretty elevated out there. And that's going to help increase the large hail threat out there. Mid-level lap rates is pretty strong. 8.5 to a 9. That's going to be favorable for some significant hail. Low-level lap rates is on the weaker side for most areas, but really along the dry line here or cold front, there's some pretty good low-level lap rate values out there. Downdrive Cape is very elevated out there, which is going to be favorable for damage to winds. If we check out wind shear values, bulk shear is pretty elevated out there, but if we do check out story helicity values, that's a different story. It's mostly on the lower end side for most areas, but we do have areas up to 200 in the parts of southern Oklahoma, even in parts of northern Texas out there too. Here's another way to look at story helicity for the surface to 500 millibars. You can see here, story helicity values are not very impressive, but these numbers will increase as we get deeper to the evening hours as well. And here's a look at the significant weather parameters. You can see here we do have some elevated numbers out there. And really, you get over a 2. That's where we can see the potential for strong tornadoes out there. And I do expect some of these numbers here to increase over the next couple hours or so as well, as soon as those wind shear values do increase, because there's a lot of instability out there in place. And that's going to be favorable for some significant severe weather, including the threat for long track strong tornadoes. Which, if we do check out the latest hurricane run, it's a kind of a scary look. I'm not going to lie to you guys. If we go about 4 or 5 hours from now, you can see here, so we get later into the evening hours, about 8 or 9 o'clock Central Time, you got multiple supercells out there. It's got 2 supercells, kind of north of Childers, Texas, into southwestern Oklahoma. There's a couple more supercells farther to the eastern parts of southern Oklahoma into northern Texas. And these are the supercells we need to watch for over the next several hours, because these supercells have the potential to produce large hail, damage and winds, and really the biggest one of all will be tornadoes, and some of those can be strong and long track. It definitely has some potential to become a tornado outbreak, which I know in Oklahoma, you guys are probably tired of the model risks over the past couple of days, as they didn't really pan out as forecast. Well, this time here, it could be a different story. But we can't really say that from kind of a model's simulation or whatever. But there's a big high ceiling out there. The potential is very high out there. So the potential is there. We could see a tornado outbreak over these areas out there as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see of what happens over the next couple hours. What you see here is we get deeper into the evening hours, we should begin to see a big cluster of thunderstorms develop somewhere in the southwestern part of Oklahoma. Wherever these supercells kind of cluster up, that helps decrease the strong tornado threat, but you still got the potential for damaging straight line winds. That really wraps up that risk. You can see how it really continues to move into parts of eastern Oklahoma as well. That's a nasty cluster moving through parts of northern Oklahoma as well. And then eventually the severe weather risk moves into Thursday farther to the east. And here's the updraft helicity swaths here. And you can see here, there's a lot of swaths out there, and the numbers are pretty darn high out there. Which higher the number, the better the stronger the circulation could be. And you can see we got pretty high numbers out there. Eventually you get to those red and pink colors. That really indicates the potential for some strong rotating thunderstorms out there. So then again, the possibility is there. We could see some long track, strong tornadoes, which you can see here. Check out this long updraft velocity swath right here, and this is what we're talking about, the potential for long track tornadoes. So it's definitely something to really keep an eye on over the next couple hours, especially if you live in the southwest Oklahoma into northeastern Texas. This is the area I'm most concerned with than anywhere else. But even areas in the parts of southern Oklahoma into northern Texas should definitely watch this as well. And even areas up to central Oklahoma where you do have the potential for a pretty intense squall line as well. So really, later today, if you live in parts of Oklahoma and northern Texas, definitely stay weather aware. Be prepared to take shelter if necessary out there as well. And then again, that severe weather risk does push further to the east by the next day, which is tomorrow. And really by the morning hours on Thursday, we could see a big cluster of thunderstorms. Some of it could be pretty disorganized depending on how much instability we still have out there. But you can see here, and I personally think it's just going to be mostly a big cluster of thunderstorms. And then again, that enhanced risk, it's a wind-driven enhanced risk. It's not like it's tornado-driven or anything like that. It's mostly going to be a damage wind threat, in my opinion. But if a storm were to form out ahead of the main squall line, that may have a better opportunity to produce some tornadoes out there as well. So we do need to pay attention to those storms out ahead of the main squall line as well. And also have the potential to produce some hail too. Which if you do check out specific torque parameters right around 18Z, really the numbers are not very impressive out there compared to what could go on today. And even with the warm front setup up in the parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, even the numbers up there are not very impressive. But I think Berkshire Valley's up there is probably going to help keep that tornado risk out there, which you can see here. And I feel like sometimes the hurricane model does have a tendency to be underestimating wind shear values in some situations, but the possibility is there regardless. Which, if you do check out the sounding here, wind shear values up there are not very impressive, but of course, this is kind of like earlier in the day. This is 18Z. This is not where your highest wind shear values are going to be, but instability values, on the other hand, is getting pretty elevated around this point here. And this is only like in the early afternoon hours, so you already have a pretty decent environment in place. Hodograph is pretty small. There is some wind direction of height up there as well. There's also some dry air in the surface. That's going to help increase that damage wind risk out there too. And so we move farther to the south into kind of around the Arkansas, Texas, or Louisiana area. You can see here, there's some slight contamination on this sounding here, but regardless if it's contaminated or not, the wind shear values are still not very impressive out there. And I think that's going to be kind of a limiting factor with these clusters because you would need a good amount of wind shear to keep this cluster of thunderstorms pretty organized. So yeah, it's definitely something to watch for is how wind shear values kind of go on tomorrow because that can really determine your risk for severe weather overall. Not just for tornadoes, but also for damage winds as well. Because if you're going to have weak wind shear values, on Thursday, the cluster thunderstorms are not going to be very organized, and that decreases the severe weather risk overall. So that's something else we're going to have to watch for too. I didn't mean to get that off, but anyway, even as you get into the um, evening hours, the numbers are still not very high out there in parts of Texas and Louisiana, which at this point here, really the cluster is kind of dying down. This is the sounding in central Louisiana. You can see here the wind shear values are just not really there at all on that sounding there. It's not really supported for severe weather. But that warm front setup, though, there are some elevated numbers coming up over in parts of Kentucky, which at this point here, it's actually got a cap in place in the low levels, which is interesting. But you also notice here, sorry, the velocity values are slightly more elevated than earlier on, too. So then again, we have to pay attention to see how wind shear values kind of go with a setup here as well for Thursday setup here. Really, Thursday setup has been kind of downtrending over the last couple of days. So definitely something to keep an eye on still, because there's the possibilities there that it can change out there too. And the last thing we're going to talk about is Friday. We're actually going to look to the highest NAM and check out those superset composite parameters. Yeah, there are some elevated numbers out there, and it's not just in a localized area. It's all actually over in a pretty large area overall. Really, I consider pretty decent numbers for a superset composite parameters. Really, at least a 4, which is in the orange shades out there. You get to some of those higher numbers when you get into red, which are some red colors out there on the superset composite parameters. And you can see here, if you do check out these wind bars here, our low is in east central Illinois. And there's going to be a little bit of a triple point setup here for areas in the lower Ohio Valley region. And there is still some uncertainty up north because there's the possibility that that morning convection may interrupt the uh, the environment for the next day. So there is some uncertainty out there. But the higher name is pretty aggressive with it, I will say. The Hermal, not as aggressive, but even the Hermal does suggest for some severe weather, which it doesn't go for the entire event just yet, so that's why I'm not really showing the Herbal for today, but we'll see the Herbal tomorrow. But anyway, the higher amp does show some pretty elevated numbers out there, and this is at 18Z on Friday, so this is not even peak time heating yet. You got some pretty good values out there. If we get a sounding in southern Kentucky, and wait for this to kind of load in. And really, while the sounding kind of low, well, actually, the sound just popped up. Okay, anyway, selective helicity values overall are pretty elevated, but usually, sometimes the higher name has a tendency to be a little bit overcooking the instability values. However, I will mention that the higher name did just about nail the instability values from yesterday, so I will say that. But I still would believe in this type of environment here, I think it's going to overcook it just a little bit. But other parameters out there, the lap rates, though, if we do see stronger lap rates over Kentucky and Tennessee, that's going to help prevent that messy convection mode, which you can also notice here with the 2 point line is farther apart from the red line, which is the temperature line. There's an indication there is some dry air in the upper levels, and that's going to help prevent that very messy mode of convection. So if that does occur, if the higher name is correct, we could see a little bit more of a higher severe weather setup or a much better severe weather setup for areas up north. And it could be a little bit concerning too. We have to pay attention to those wind shear values though, which are around 18Z, which is kind of in the mid-afternoon hours. There's some pretty decent serrated helicity values out there, and that's going to help support the potential for tornadoes out there too, and really damage winds as well. There is some wind direction of height out there too. You got a decent hodograph as well, and even downdraft cape is pretty elevated too. So really, if this sounded were to be correct, hail will be a possibility, especially given by the elevated mixed layer cape. Tornadoes will be a possibility. I don't think there's a strong tornado risk out there, but the potential for tornadoes is there. And also, I think damage winds will be the primary threat out there. And Kentucky would not be the only state to watch for. You got areas in the parts of northern Georgia, eastern Tennessee, even the parts of West Virginia. Let's get our next sounding in northwestern Georgia and see what it suggests out there. And probably at the same time here, I, I believe this is a warm front kind of setup for the Carolinas out here. So we'll get another sounding in parts of South Carolina as well, which this is in northwestern Georgia. That's a very interesting sounding. Um, maybe a little aggressive, I will be honest there. But sorry to Felicity, surprisingly, it's higher farther south. We'll have to wait and see about that. But regardless here, it does show some higher sorry to Felicity values, which really helps increase that tornado risk. And there's also decent amount of instability. Downdraft cape is pretty elevated. Lap rates are not bad either, especially in the mid levels. And there's also a good hodograph. So it's a big if. If the sounding were to be correct, conditions could be favorable for all hazards, including the threat for tornadoes. And I would not necessarily say there's a strong tornado threat out there, even though the potential hazard type says PDS tornado. I would ignore that. But I think the conditions will be favorable for all hazards, including the potential for supercells too. This is over in the parts of South Carolina. It's not as impressive with the wind shear, but the instability though is pretty darn elevated. Surface base cape 4,500, with mixed layer cape up to 3,000. This will be a favorable environment here for some hail and wind damage producers, not for tornadoes. But the wind shear values are at least favorable enough to get some at least some organized storms out there. So really, it's not a major threat out there. And you can see here how some of these sort of lists or these superset composite values do continue farther to the east into parts of North Carolina, to Virginia, even into West Virginia by later in the day, by I should say by Friday night. But here's a look at reflectivity. I don't show higher stable reflectivity that often because it likes to cluster up everything. It's not very realistic, but I think this is a little bit interesting to show here. And look at this by 18Z on Friday. Look at all these individual cells that are out there across Kentucky and even the parts of southern Ohio and Virginia. That's very interesting to me, especially again the fact of how the hurricane likes to cluster up everything, which honestly, in my opinion here, would not surprise me if we do see a couple of clusters. Not very large clusters, but small cluster thunderstorms out there for Friday. But you do see here some of these individual cells have the potential to become a supercell too. That's another thing to watch for. Is that some of these storms have the potential to become a supercell. That helps increase the potential for tornadoes. But then again, there are still some uncertainties out there. Number one, how would the morning convection really affect the severe weather setup overall? Because the higher SAM doesn't suggest much way of morning convection out there. It actually shows the morning convection getting out here very quickly here, which this is by Thursday evening, which it actually does show some supercells across parts of southwestern Kentucky, like I was talking about earlier. Even shows some. Here's another little thunderstorm rolling through. Here comes another wave out there. And then bam, here comes peak time heating, big storms out there. It's not just Kentucky. You even got areas farther to the south, even in the parts of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, even some storms over parts of the Carolinas too. So Friday is going to be looks like an interesting day overall. There's going to be several areas to watch here too. Really, it's over a large area covering multiple states out there. Really, in this pink circle in particular, these are the areas I will focus on pretty closely for Friday. But we'll have to wait and see where models trend next for Friday. But Friday definitely looks like a very interesting day. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.